Now I'd like to talk today about my dogs, because I've always had, not always, but since 1988 or 87, perhaps, when I first got my first dog, Melo. I was in Italy. I moved to Italy and I was married to this Italian photographer, Swiss photographer. So I'm talking about my relationship to my dogs and some aspect of mine of being cold and detached and not empathic and not enough loving towards my dogs. As some of you might know, because in my film Someone to Love, I admit that I had abandoned my dog Nero. And in a way, my first dog, Melo, I abandoned him too. Not literally, but emotionally I abandoned him. And so when I was pregnant with Diana, I started, he was there with us for 2-3 years. But it was like, dogs have always been a sort of substitute for affection, for other human affection, and or for kids, and or for husband. So when I was pregnant with Diana, then I just lost interest in Melo, and he got cancer and he died. And I remember very well when he died. And the moment when he had cancer and he died was when, on top of having my kid and being totally immersed in my motherhood, on top of that, I was thrilled, because I felt that I was becoming an artist, a photographer, because I started photographing other people. After 6 years of self-portraits in which I didn't feel that I was an artist, I felt that I was doing this secret practice. So, but then it was 94 when I was thrilled and I was on fire because of this passion of photographing others. Finally, I could photograph other people, and I was so thrilled, yeah. And that was the moment in which he emotionally abandoned, not only because of my daughter, but also because of this passion of my work. I just didn't look at him anymore, and he got this tumor and he died, and I remember that I was cold about even his illness. I remember that I was pulling the leash when he was he couldn't walk anymore. Oh, it was I feel guilty, very guilty because of that. And this video is hard for me because I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty. Well, that was Melo. And then that was 94. So 4 years later, I separated from my husband and I got Nero as a substitute. Yes, for my daughter Diana, but also, yeah, it was for me as well, this sort of substitute of affection. And Nero, he was with us, and he was both Nero and Melo come from, well, Melo actually came from a dog shelter. Nero came from an advertising in this newspaper, Italian newspaper called Seconda Mano, in which you could buy and sell things second-hand, you know. So he was a second-hand dog, so to speak. And but he was not a puppy. He was already an adult. And as well as Melo, and both of them, I think, were traumatized. And I felt sort of wanting to take care of a traumatized dog, and I gave my love, but there was this coldness as well. And with Nero, at a certain point, after like 4, 5, 6 years, something like that, I was in a moment in which I was totally in despair, in deep despair, because of money, but because of just myself, and I was like wanting to die, and I had actually thought of giving both daughters to their dads for some time, and leaving and going to America to work. I had this idea, and it didn't work out. Thank heavens. But so I had this idea of abandoning my kids, and I didn't do that, but I did abandon my dog. It was like the feeling of having 3 beings like needing me and looking at me and longing for affection from me was too much, because I needed affection too, and I was like overwhelmed with these beings that needed me, and I was on my own, and I didn't have the affection that I needed from myself, first of all. So I abandoned him. I decided when precisely my kids were with their dads for the weekend or something, I got the dog and Nero, and I brought him to, it's like horrible even to say it. I mean, I said it in my video, but to say it again, it's like horrible. I feel like justifying myself. I feel like very guilty. I brought him to Liguria, to a very nice area, this is a justification perhaps, to a very nice area, and with little houses and stuff, and hoping that someone would get him. And then afterwards I was feeling terrible, and I really missed him. Which means that it's not that I'm only cold. I'm sometimes cold and detached, and I can be cold and detached with humans as well. And I need to say this in a video and to let this out, because it's something that I'm ashamed of, and I'm guilty. I feel guilty, and I'm guilty of. So I have to let it out. I have to let it out. I feel very uneasy in talking about this. But at the same time, so I abandoned Nero in 2004. And then for 6 years I didn't have any dog. And then when I went to Spain in 2010, again, I went with one of my daughters, because my elder one went to Berlin to live with her boyfriend. And as a substitute, an emotional substitute, we got Yuna. Together with my little daughter, she chose Yuna actually. And it was really good, also because we were a family. There was Yasin, but there was also Awa, who was taking care of the house and the kids when I was away, and the dog, and therefore I felt like we were a family, and we were like, it was good, because I could take care of my dog, but not, having only the dogs on my own. And then we moved to Cardedeu, from Barcelona to Cardedeu, which is close to the countryside. And one day we found a puppy, a lost puppy, and we said, "Oh, a puppy," which in the end was of somebody else. But then that gave us the idea to get another dog, a puppy, like Yuna. Yuna was also a puppy when we got her. So So it was very cuddly and so on. So we got Coco. And because I was thinking that I was going to stay in Spain forever. Like, okay, now I'm staying here. It's the place where I come from, and we were in the countryside, so I thought, yeah, let's get another dog, you know. And they've been fantastic. And then we moved to a house with a garden, but then work started not to come anymore. Like, yeah, several situations, difficult situations, and then I decided to move to Switzerland in 2018. And for a moment I thought, what do I do with dogs? So I was like wanting to get rid of them, only in my mind, but I remembered that I had promised to myself that I would never abandon my dogs anymore. So so I took them to Switzerland, and I did all that had to be done with the vaccines, and then this, and the passports, and this, and finding a house that would allow me here in Tessin, in Ticino, in Switzerland. It's hard to get an apartment with two big dogs, yeah, but I found one. So, and you know, we came here with a truck full of stuff and dogs and kid and everything. So I made it, and I'm now, since Yassine went to live elsewhere, and she's happily like 10 minutes from here, but she's happily with her friends and everything, and I'm on my own with my dogs, with my two dogs. And of course, every time that I have to leave for work, I have to pay a dog sitter to be with them. And I'm like, they are big company for me, yeah. They are like my love, yeah, and it's important because I've been on my own, and I've been on my own during the whole quarantine period, the lockdown and everything, and I could go out and walk in the woods, which is 5 minutes from here. It's just a beautiful woods. And I can get out with the dogs even during lockdown. So that was a blessing. But it's true that I have had moments of coldness and of saying, what do I do with these dogs? And thinking, you know, but it's like, and I have actually thought, I mean, can I give these dogs to someone else and be free to move around the world and something like that, you know? But of course, lately with coronavirus, I've like grown very fond of being at home, and not traveling actually, and walking with the dogs in this beautiful woods, and being with the dogs for 2 hours walking, and it's like fantastic. So in the end, it's like, but it's there, this sort of desire of getting rid of them, you know. And then, okay, when we arrived in Switzerland, Yuna broke her knee. I don't know how to say that. Something in the knee that ties it together, like crossed nerve that. Well, anyway, it just broke, and I had to, and she had to go through an operation, and it cost 2,000 francs, and it was like, and the vet told me that she would be getting that again in the other knee sooner or later. So the moment came, and now we have to operate her again. And at the beginning I told the vet, well, is there any other alternative, any other way? And he said, well, you can just, you know, make her retire and not operate her, and just take her out like to do her things, but you know, not long walks as I normally do. And I had already sort of decided that I would do that Yuna would retire, because she's 10 and she's old, and then, you know, spending so much money and so on. despite the fact that I'm okay with money right now. But and I told my daughter, Yassine, and she was mad at me, really mad at me. And she said, "You are cold." And I realized that it was true. I was cold, and I was sort of thinking that I, wanted to get rid of her, because despite the fact that I love going out with them, it's like hard to keep two dogs. Sometimes they really pull very strong, and I'm 58, But nevertheless, that's justification. I'm talking about this cold aspect of mine, of not empathic, And I realized that. So I have finally decided to go to the vet and do this operation. And I'm happy I have decided that. And actually, lately I have bought two really nice beds for them, for both of the dogs. And recently I wasn't really buying beautiful things for them, but I bought these two beds, and they are so happy, and they show me that they're so happy in these beds, that they lie like that, and they love the beds, and it's just so beautiful to see them happy. And then I thought, well, I have to. So in a way, it's like I have this aspect of being cold, not only towards dogs, but also towards humans sometimes. And if I'm aware of this, then I can take it into account and be careful that my coldness doesn't affect other people or my dogs, and to deal with this and recover from my coldness. As usual, this is all lifelong recovery from everything. Yeah.